All right, guys, I wanted to do a video talking about buying a used washer. I'll include dryer as well and refrigerator. So start off, we're going to deal with a washer. Let's say you look on Marketplace and you want to buy a washer. So first things first, once you get to the place that you want to look at the machine, you want to open the lid. And a couple things you're looking for. Number one, you want to spin the basket. You want to spin it by hand. Okay. Listen again. So this washer you would not buy. Now, we're going to push down on the rod or the basket. You're going to check the suspension. But either way, you would not buy the machine if it sounds like that. Now let's push down. These rods are good. Okay, see how they bounce back at you, but they bounce back very forcefully, not spongy. So you would not buy this. It's not worth it. All right, so close him up. This is a GE. Now, spin the drum. Nice and quiet. So you would definitely consider this, and you'd want to push the basket, make sure it's not spongy. See that? Comes back at you. That's sturdy. So far, so good. Another test you would do, you would grab the outer tub and you'd hold it firmly, and then you would push this inner drum, and you should not see any movement. You should not see a play. So this inner and outer, they are independent. They should not touch. So this would be a very good machine. Next thing you want to do, hopefully the person would allow it, plug it in, put it on drain, and spin. Now when you do that, pour some water, get a jug, take it with you, who knows. Pour it in, hit drain and spin. Now you're checking the board. You're checking the drain pump. So, and probably you'll hear the valve when they turn on, but they won't fully engage. But in this case, you'd be halfway there, mitigating some potential issues. And also you hear the machine spinning, and it should be nice and quiet. So go to the back of the machine, make sure they're clean, no sediments, and that will help you to say, okay, this is a good machine. If it's full of sediment, then you need to negotiate, because potentially you may be dealing with issues in the valve. Not expensive to fix, but at least you can kind of negotiate a little bit. Another thing you can do, you can lay the machine on the back and take a look at the transmission. Is on a Whirlpool, and you want to look, you're looking for oils, any kind of weird markings. When you're under the machine, if you see any kind of splatter marks along the edge, that's a telltale sign not to buy it. So make sure the belt is on. Just basically doing a visual. Make sure that there's no oil or anything funky with the transmission. And that's pretty much all you can do, given you don't have access to anything else. This is your drain pump, and of course you already verified that that is working by pouring the water in. And yep, transmission looks good, but as you see, this machine is still loud. So the bearings and seals are worn out. So it's in its early stage of going bad. If this was your washer, you could probably still use it. It's loud, but it's still not totally dead. But you wouldn't want to buy this because you're buying a problem machine. All right, so this is the Whirlpool, and he needs suspension rods. So he's super bouncy, and we're gonna push down. You wouldn't buy this machine unless it's a super good deal and you know you can replace just the rods. Another thing you would do, you'd spin the basket. So he's quiet. So depending on the price, this would not be a bad buy. You could basically get it cheap, fix it. Now again, you're gonna do this. You see that? Nice and sturdy. So this would not be a totally don't buy, but if you don't want to deal with any fixing, then no, you wouldn't buy this machine. All right, and that's the Whirlpool. Got a GE back here. So we got a big drum GE here. He's massive. And again, you would spin the drum. Drum is good, nice and quiet. And of course, push down, and his rods are good. He's sturdy. So, all right. I think that covers that on the washers. Let me see anything else I miss. So on front loaders, this is a Samsung, and if you're looking to buy something like this, we have the dispenser out, you would basically do the same thing. You would put it in drain and spin. It's not plugged in, but you go to drain and spin. You're checking the board, and you're checking the door lock. You're checking the stator, and you're checking the drain pump. As soon as water is poured in and you hit drain and spin, it will lock, and you're able to know if this drum is good, if it's loud. And you also want to check on these, the seal or the bellow. Now, you can rotate these as well. And this is fine. It's not movement, there's no movement. This tub is good. Now, something you want to note, if this washer was sitting in storage for a while, and they tell you that, you're going to have a lot of, you may say, caked on scum or soap scum along the edge. So what you want to do when you first get this machine, pour water in, rotate it by hand a few times, and then go on down here and open that up and let it drain before you actually do a load. That will basically mitigate a drain pump issue, or a no drain issue, I should say. And while you're there checking, make sure you check the seal, move your finger around. You're checking for holes and rips. If this is ripped, don't buy it unless you anticipate fixing it. And that pretty much covers that. But you're checking some of the system as you put it in drain and spin. So when you put the washer in drain and spin, you're checking the MCU, the motor control unit. You're checking the drain pump. So you're checking a few items just right there, including the door lock. So all those things are checked. So don't forget to put it in drain and spin. Very, very important. As you can see, that basket is super, super difficult to move. Now on this GE, we're actually going to do a video on this soon. I'm going to do a full teardown and basically check this machine out. Is it worth it? And it's okay if you're a single person or maybe two people. Other than that, I would not invest in something like this. Whenever you have a washer that's doing two-part, it's doing double duty. It's doing wash, it's doing dry. Now, you may say they're separate components. Well, not really. So, the bearings, this drum is always working. Okay? So, as soon as it's done washing, its journey's not yet done. It has another load to do, which is drying. So you're putting double work on that. So, and they don't dry as efficient. Now, they do have their purpose, don't get me wrong. If you're in a situation to where you can't use a vented dryer, in fact, in Europe, a lot of the machines are basically ventless. So, but that's a dryer, that's a dedicated dryer. So it's made for drying, and one is made for double duty. One thing though I do love is the Microband. That's GE exclusive, and it's a long time coming. We do have to kind of go through this machine, get it cleaned up a little bit. But not a bad looking machine, but very expensive to work on because you're dealing with double components. So not an easy repair. The labor kills you when you have to have something like this, serviced, because it's so big and it's very heavy. Moving one of these things, it's just ridiculous. Now, a couple things to look for if you go and buy a front loader is you want to look for markings. Now, this is the inner glass. That's your drum. When you overload and this drum moves around, bouncing, it comes up and it hits this glass. Okay, you see that marking? That's from the drum rotating. So be mindful when you load these. I always tell customers not to overload. You basically want to keep it right under that invisible marking. But people don't know, so they stuff these things. And you end up killing the machine prematurely. So a lot of these machines, they actually die before their time because they just get overworked. So I think that covers that. And if you're in the market to buy one of these, if you have a family of 4, I wouldn't recommend it at all. It's not practical unless you don't have the option to use a regular dryer. So I wouldn't do it. But if you do, but again, it's your money. Now, I want to talk about stack units. Should you buy them? Again, if you have a situation to where you don't have a choice, you have to use something like this, I get it. But if you're able to get a washer and you stack the dryer on top, you're way better off than buying one of these units. And the reason why I'm not a big fan of them is when they break, you're stuck, okay? you're stuck. You have to replace or get rid of one. That's the sad part of them. And these newer GEs, you know, for example, we have an older Frigidaire over here somewhere. This machine needs a turn to start, and I think that's it. Small drum, but this machine is hardy. It's amazing. It's gonna run and it's gonna last forever. I think we're gonna change the belt on this one as well. So other than that, he's excellent machine. I would take this machine, this one, over the GE any day. Any day. Heavy duty, and they last forever. If you can find one of these older units, by all means, get it. So, all right, guys, I think I covered everything. If I did not cover something, let me know, or just ask me in the comments. All right. Thanks for watching. All right, so now we're talking about a used dryer. You want to buy a dryer, and again, you don't know if it's going to work or not. There's no power. Unless you can actually see it working, you don't know for sure what you're buying. So let's do a quick example. You go to check a dryer, to buy a dryer, and first thing you want to check is the easiest thing to do. That click, it means the switch is good. Another thing you want to do is come in here and you want to rotate the drum slowly. You want to feel some resistance. That means the belt is on. That's one less issue to worry about. You want to look around in the dryer, see if there's anything caught up in here. A lot of times things are up in there. There's something there. This one needs to be gone through and fixed. This dryer actually needs to be fixed. So these are things to look out for. These things can damage the seal, even cut wires along the edge. Some units have the door switch up here. So as it's rotating, if it's long enough, it could actually damage that. So look for those things. Make sure that the seal back here is good. It's not ripped or broken. Look along here to see if you have a lot of lint built up. Sometimes it'll be so thick that it's, you know, you can tell just by looking at it. Now, if you rotate this and it's super easily moved, that's a good sign that the belt has come off or is broken. Then, you know, you would make the decision whether or not you want to take a chance on it. But if you want a machine that's working, then you wouldn't get it. If you want to, you can remove this. See if it's filthy. Shine the light down in there. And if you want to check to see if the belt is on, 2 Phillips screws, you just remove them. Pretty straightforward. You will need a Phillips screwdriver. Sometimes you might need a putty knife. You push right there, this top lifts up. I'll show you a trick. Put your knee here, reach your hand back here, and pull forward. As you pull, you lift. And it comes up. So I need 2 hands. There it is. All right, so the belt is on this machine. And you can look around. There's that item that we saw. And we don't know if this machine is any good. And I'm going to show you how you can check at least the motor and to see if the drum is rotating before you buy a dryer. Now, let's go back here. Now this is a different dryer. Okay, and that's what it looks like. So what I'm going to show you how and what to do. What we have here, that's 120 volts. And we have our plug, and we have our white, which is neutral, and we have our black, which is power. So now we're going to run half of the machine. Okay, half. You can also look for dust built up. Doesn't mean anything per se, it just means you need to clean the dryer. And this one pretty much just came in, so we do have to go through it and clean it. It's been checked and tested, so we do have to detail it. Now, what we're gonna do, and you can do this, you can get a test lead, alligator clips, solder them or crimp them, whatever you do. And let's say you're at the customers or the person you're trying to buy the machine from, and you connect those just like I have them. If the plug is facing you, black is on the left, and the neutral is on the top. Get a good visual. Okay. This runs the motor and powers the board. So you're actually able to operate the dryer. Now it's not going to heat because we're not operating the other circuit. All we're doing is checking half of the dryer. So if you had a bad board, then you would know for sure. And if you had a bad motor, you'd know for sure. So this is a crucial step. So we're going to turn power on. Power is on. I'm going to press power. Okay. Dryer turns on. Quick dry. Start. All right, so we have just checked half of the dryer. So at least you can make a decision to say, well, I think the element is good, but at least you know the board is powered up and you're halfway there. So I would say this is definitely a big help. And you just make one of these, you take that with you, and that's it. Actually, we're gonna check that dryer, and I'm gonna show you what it does. We have our light, and you're gonna see when I check that dryer, it's gonna trip this, and that's telling you that there's a short in that dryer. So if you bought that dryer, you would have problems. And sometimes people don't tell you they have issues, they just want to sell them to you. All right, so let's unplug and try the other dryer. All right, so we're plugged up and nothing is touching metal. This is how you would do it if you had a Whirlpool. The center is your neutral, green is your ground, left is going to be your power or your red. So, hope my connection is good. All right, so now we're going to plug in. Now watch the light. Okay, you see the light? I'm gonna plug this in. As soon as I plug it in, see what happens, watch. See that? It tripped. That tells you that this dryer has a short. Now I have to go and reset the GFCI. But this unit has a short and you wouldn't know it. So that cheater cord is a lifesaver. So this machine, even though the lid switch is good, it wouldn't be good to buy it. All right, guys, that's how you check a used dryer. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, so you're in the market for a refrigerator and you don't want to buy a new one. So you found a nice one on Marketplace, and I want to just talk you through, help you out so you're able to navigate and maybe find yourself a good refrigerator. Now, depending on the model you're going to be getting, they're going to be different ones, so you can't always make one video that covers one. You have to basically go through and talk about different things that different models going to have. This unit actually says GE, collaboration between Samsung. So this is actually the Samsung machine. Now, this is actually a pretty good unit. And reason is, even Samsung used to be pretty good 18, 19 years ago. Whatever, not too good anymore. So you have the ice box. Even though I'm not a big fan of an ice box in the refrigerator, ice maker should be in the freezer. But anyways, this is a better attempt to make it better. Good seal. This seal will have to be replaced. Reason for that, or sometimes you can use a hair dryer to bring it back in compliance. The reason is air will be going in the ice maker, freezing it up. Okay, so you go to look at a unit. One thing you want to do, if possible, make sure the unit is up and running. When you go to buy a refrigerator, if it's unplugged, you're taking a chance. So you're taking a chance, especially it's from a homeowner that is selling it, because all they have to say is, well, it was working when I had it, when they had it. So first things first, have it plugged in before you go. And I like to use a reference point of a couple days, even better. Better yet would be 7 days running. Hopefully if they would do something like that. Or the best refrigerator would be to have it like where they're using it and they're going to be getting a new one. And once their new one is delivered, you can get their old one. Those are the best ones because they're using it. Another thing to look out for, if they're upgrading and they're upgrading to the same color, a lot of times you want to be cautious because a lot of times there's an issue with one of the appliances. So be mindful of that if people are upgrading to the same color. Let's fix this real quick. Whatever, deal with that later. All right, so a couple things to look for, and this will cover any refrigerator, is the door seal. You want to make sure that the seals are good. They're not damaged. Now, if the seal is damaged, it doesn't mean you can't buy the refrigerator. But you want to be careful because some models will have a seal that you can't change. This one, for example, you could easily order a seal and pop it in. No big deal. Okay? So that's fine. So be mindful of that. Check the seals all the way down. Needs a little cleaning, but check all of that. Another thing to check, especially on French doors, is pull this drawer out and look underneath. If you see a layer of ice, sheathing of ice, that means you have a clogged drain, and that's something you'll have to deal with because that could cause your unit not to cool. So a clogged drain is not the end of the world. You can easily mitigate that, replace the drain, get it cleaned out. But these are just things to look out for. Of course, you do the same to the freezer. Make sure that, and by the way, guys, when you close your doors, you close this first so that this mullion don't damage that. A lot of people don't know. So you close this last so you don't have a problem. And of course, you would check the seal on the freezer. And of course, you'd go down and you would check it down there. People never check that because nobody really gets on there, gets down there and look. But you want to check and make sure that it's not damaged, because you'll never know until it's too late. All right, check the handles, make sure the handles are nice and sturdy. Now, on like a unit, I think this is a KitchenAid. Yeah, these are going to be hard to really check, other than all you can check is the seals to make sure that all that is good, that the lights are on, check that the compressor, all that stuff is running. The fan in the back, you want to make sure that's running. Those are some things you can check. In fact, sometimes you can even go into diagnostic. You can get the model number from the customer. Model numbers are going to be located usually on the right, upper right corner, lower left corner, or right center, or up top on the left for most Whirlpools. So places that you can look for the model number, do your research on it. I'm not a big fan of LGs, so I would not recommend buying an LG refrigerator. They do make good washers and dryers, and their fridges used to be great back in the day, but they're no longer worth a thing. Again, you would check the seal, and one thing you would check is the temperature. Okay, let's see, go to look, and you want to open the fridge and just look at the temperature and see where it's at. When I say the temperature, meaning the settings, right? Freezer should be at 0 for most units. Some LGs and Samsung could be -4, totally fine, but you want it to be at least 0. The fresh food, you want it to be at 35 to 37, in that area, even 33. If you have a thermometer, take one with you. I'm gonna fix that. Take one with you, put it in there, walk away, give it a few minutes. You should come back, and the unit should be at the proper temperature, what we just said. So if not, if it's around 50, you could have a bad damper, or it could be iced up. You may have a bad fan. So those are things to check. And of course, the seal, the mullion, you make sure the mullion is closing. A lot of times you get them and this does not close. So because the door has dropped and you don't realize it, but this part here is open. So when you close your door, you have a gap, and your fridge is basically like that, except the door is closed, but you have a gap. All right, so check those things so you can mitigate some of those issues. Open the freezer, and you should be able to hear the fan just blowing. You should definitely hear that. So if you open it and you don't hear the fan, maybe it turned off, could be in defrost, all that's possible, but I would definitely wait until you can hear the fan running. And also check the floor, make sure you don't have any ice. A lot of times when you have a clogged drain, units will end up with water dripping on the floor, and a lot of times a customer will get rid of a fridge just for that. So if that's the issue, that's not a big deal. Don't let that stop you from buying it. You can easily mitigate that by removing back there, or even go to the back of the fridge, remove the drain, and use your steamer or something and get that unclogged. So that's not the end of the world. Again, this would be the temperature where you would actually check it. And another thing to pay attention to is your door switch. Sometimes these switches will go bad. So while you're checking the fridge, just press this and the lights should go off. If it doesn't, you may have a bad switch, and what's going to happen is it's going to raise the temperature inside the fridge because the light is always on, even when the door is closed. And again, pay attention to where the settings are. If you notice that it's turned all the way up to the coldest, there's a good chance that the fridge has issues. Now, one last thing to pay attention to, or almost last, It's going to be back here on the back wall. And you want to pay attention to that because it's going to be very difficult to spot. And what it is frost. You should not have any frosting back here. When the unit is working correctly, you don't have any frost. So when you have frost, that means you have a defrost issue, 9 times out of 10. Or you even have a clogged drain. But GE does rarely in these older models have a clogged drain. But that's something to look out for as well. One more thing, pour some water. Now this is only on a side-by-side. Pour a little bit of water down here and you should not get any coming out of here. And you can also press this just to make sure once it's powered up, the flapper should open and it should close back as well. And these should light up. That tells you that the board is sending power here. And it's one less thing to worry about. All right. Yeah, one more thing. If you're able to get to the back of the unit, you should be able to hear and check the condenser fan. You should be able to hear it and feel heat as well. Not too much heat, but enough heat to where you'll definitely know that it's working. You could probably get a feather duster and take it back there and just feel, and you can actually feel the air being pulled or pushed. So, all right guys, I think that covers refrigerators. If anything that I missed, just let me know. But the main thing is to make sure that the fridge is running. If you're gonna buy it, at least make sure it's running. Now, one last thing, make sure when you transport a refrigerator, you stand it up. It is so crucial. Now, if you wanted to, this is the freezer. If you wanted to transport it laying down, okay? That compressor and the oil, you would want the oil not to go this way, okay? You don't want to have oil going up to these tubes. So if it's a fridge, you would not lay it on this side. You would find the side that does not have anything, maybe the service port, which is on the other side, and that's where you'd lay it. If you have to, it hurts even talking about it, but you wouldn't lay it where the oil could migrate and cause damage. It's your filter dryer, and you don't want to clog that. So, all right guys, I didn't mention anything about freezers, but pretty much the same thing you would deal with a refrigerator. Bottom line with freezers, it's a little more crucial because you want to make sure that you get a thermometer, put it in there, and you should stay at 0 or below. Whatever it's set at is what you want it to be at. Have the customer or the seller leave a bottle of water in there overnight, but don't just take their word. Someone could just freeze the water and put it in, and your fridge or freezer is not that cold. So you want to make sure that you bring something, stick it in there, close the door, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, even 5 minutes, it's going to drop if it's been running. Now, I wanted to show you better on a unit that is not so high. For example, if you wanted to transport this unit, okay? This is your service port. And by the way, when you see this red, that means the unit is R600. The refrigerant in here, it's flammable. So be super careful. These aren't 134A units, so caution should be taken. Okay, so there it is, R600. So if you're transporting this unit and you have to lay it down, there's nothing you can do. These are the service lines. I mean, these are the refrigerant lines. And you would not want to lay the compressor on this side. You would not lay the fridge down on this side. If anything, you would lay it on the left, not on its back, because on the back, you're gonna have oil flowing here. So if you have to lay the unit, you'll lay it on the service port, which is that stub. So the oil is gonna sit on this side. When you stand it back upright, the oil will just be in the bottom like it should. So if you have to lay it on the left side facing the unit. And if yours is different, most of them going to be most will have the service port on the left side of the compressor. But if you notice that yours is different, then make the adjustment and lay it where you don't have any pipes, all right, or tubing. All right, that covers that. Another thing, guys, to look out for, sometimes you have damaged wheels, and check those. Now, sometimes you may have a damaged wheel, and when you put it in your house, it damages your flooring. So make sure that you check those before you take the unit. You want to check and make sure the fan is blowing, the condenser fan is blowing, and you'll be able to feel it. In fact, if you can, take this off. But if the unit is nice and cold, you still want to verify that the fan, which lives back here, is blowing. Because if it's not working, then you'll have to replace it. All right, so what I was mentioning, you see this, all right, guys, so we have a side-by-side here, and I want to show you basically what to look for when it comes to the manual dial or thermostat. You can see that was turned to the coldest. Now, I know this unit is working. It was in the garage, and the customer said that the unit was working fine. They had food in there. So it's not always a telltale, but it's an indicator. Sometimes people like the fridge just a little bit colder. So it's not always accurate, but 9 times out of 10, when there's an issue, it's always set colder. It should be right there. When all is well and everything is working properly, that's where it should be. All right. And of course, you shouldn't see any frost or ice built up back there. And if you have a drain that's clogged, then you know you have something to deal with. Water on the floor, all those things to look out for. And I already mentioned that. Shouldn't have that. Should not have any leaks coming out of that. All right. Thanks for watching. All right, here's a tool that I use when I'm moving refrigerators. It's called a Grabble. Nothing more than a suction cup. Now you have something to grab. So you pretty much grab the hand truck and 1 foot there, and you have a handle, and you just pull. Pretty strong, pretty stable. Look at that. You can almost use it as a handle and move the unit around. Pretty cool. All right, just want to share that.